This lesson, which I'm calling the TimeLine lesson, is about compound verb tenses in Arabic. In essence, combining the verb kana with regular verbs. A formal tense is a tense that is marked in the word itself by changing the shape of the verb itself. Now, Arabic has only two formal tenses. They're either called perfect and imperfect, or past and present in English. In Arabic, you call them al-madi and al-mudari'. The third tense, which we call future, is formed by adding the particle sa, or the word saufa, to a present tense or imperfect form. This very simple tense system of past, present, and future can be combined or supplemented by using the helping vowel kana, and when you combine all these different forms, you create a rich time reference system. The kana form, when it's used in this way, is conjugated for the same subject as the verb itself and comes directly before the verb. The tense of the kana form is independent of the tense of the main verb. So the kana form can be past, present, or future, and the main verb can be past, present, and future in any combination, and this gives you quite a few different possible combinations and possible meanings. To be specific, it creates a system with 12 possible forms. I'm going to illustrate these with the verb kataba, conjugated for the masculine third-person subject, in other words, huwa, or he. And so, kataba in this plain forms gives you three of these forms, which is kataba, yaktubu, and sayaktubu. When combined with the verb kana, you get all the different combinations of past, present, and future kana with past, present, and future regular verb, and that gives you 3 times 3, which is 9 additional possible forms. So you get past, 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 present, past, future, kana, kataba, kana, yaktubu, kana, sayaktubu, then present with all those, yakunu, kataba, yakunu, yaktubu, yakunu, sayaktubu, and future with all of them, sayakunu, kataba, sayakunu, yaktubu, sayakunu, sayaktubu. To understand the meaning of these forms, it helps to visualize a timeline. On this timeline, now is the time of speaking. And the point of verb tenses is to situate what you were talking about, the action of the verb, in relation to the time of speaking, as well as in relation to other points on the line. For instance, a specified point in the past, or a specified point in the future. Notice the arrows showing which direction time is flowing on this timeline. Before going through the various forms and their meanings, we're going to review the meanings generally associated with past and present tense forms in Arabic. The past tense form is sometimes called perfect because it refers to an event that happened in the past and is now over. In other words, it's not ongoing. A present tense form is sometimes called imperfect because it is often either continuous, which means the person is in the process of doing the verb, he is eating, he's in the process of eating, or it's habitual, which refers to what a person usually or typically does on a regular basis. He eats every day at 5 p.m. Notice that in English we use different forms to express continuous and habitual, but in Arabic the imperfect or present tense is used for both of these. Now these meanings are going to interact with the meanings of the compound tenses. So the simple past tense, kataba, means that you're specifying some point in the past and you're saying that the action happened at that point. And so kataba means at some point in the past he wrote, and the writing is now complete. So the action is limited to that point in the past. Yaktubu refers to action that is ongoing at the time of speaking. It's happening right now, or it's habitually happening. In other words, it regularly happens the way things are right now. And so a translation of that would be, he is writing, he is in the process of writing, or he always writes, he usually writes, etc. The future tense refers to a point in the future, and then says that the action that we're talking about in this verb is going to happen at that time in the future, either in a continuous or habitual mode. And so either he will be writing or he will write. The past compound tense has a past for the kana and a past for the verb. So kana kataba. We translate this as he had written. What it basically does is specify a time in the past, and from the point of view of that time, the action of the verb happened earlier than that. And so it's doubly past. And so by yesterday evening, he had already written his essay. So you specify a point in the past, and then this action takes place earlier than that. So doubly past. The past present compound tense, kana yaktubu, refers to a particular point in the past, and then says that the action was taking place in a continuous or habitual way around that. In other words, this is not an action that happened and is over. You're not thinking about it in the perfective or past sense. You're thinking about it in the ongoing sense or the habitual sense, but you're specifying that it happened in the past. So instead of he wrote, it means he was in the process of writing, or habitual. He regularly or always used to write every day at 5 o'clock, or something like that. The past future compound tense, kana sayaktubu, is similar. It also specifies a time in the past, but then talks about what was going to happen from the relationship of that time. So the action of the verb is future from the point of view of the past, even though it may have, if it actually ended up happening, it could conceivably be past from the point of view of the now speaker. Remember that future in general deals with intentionality. It's what you're intending to do. And so to say that something was going to happen does not necessarily imply that you believe it happened. It may or may not have actually happened. But the idea is that at that point in the past, he was intending to write. He was going to write, is what he was going to do. So it's past, future. We're now going to jump to the forms where you have a future with the kana verb, and then the three tenses with the regular verb. So sayakunu kataba, where you have a future with the kana and a past, is the opposite of what we've just been talking about. It specifies a point in the future, okay, and then says that this happened in the past related in relationship to that point, okay. So he will have written, by tomorrow evening, he will have written his essay. And so it's past, but it's past in relationship to a point that you specify in the future. Similarly, with the future present compound tense, sayakunu yaktubu, you're specifying a point in the future, but then you're saying that the action of the verb was either continuous or habitually happening sometime around that point in the future. So you're talking about what he is going to be in the process of doing at that point in the future, or what he will regularly, habitually, always be doing at that point in the future. And so he will be writing when I arrive, or he will, once he becomes a famous writer, he will regularly write for 2 hours every morning, even though maybe he doesn't do it right now. Similarly, the future compound tense specifies a point in the future and then states that the action of the verb is going to take place in the future in relation to that point. So it's future. Remember that future, again, is an expression of intentionality. So this, in essence, is just a prediction that the person who's the subject of the verb is going to have the intention of doing something at some point in the future, even if he perhaps doesn't have that intention now. And so you're predicting his intentionality. He will be going to write at that point, whether he's going to write now or not. So the last three forms with the helping verb in the present are the least common and the most difficult to understand, but they do exist. The force of the present tense verb here is what might be termed subjunctive or modal. It has the effect of mitigating the responsibility of the speaker for the truth of what he's asserting. The effect is something like, it should be that. If everything is as expected, it would be that. To imagine a context where a form like this might be used, imagine a person who goes on a month-long trip and leaves his itinerary with his secretary, but who does not check in with her for a whole month. A person comes into the office and asks, "What did John do yesterday?" The secretary would check his itinerary and say something to the effect of, "If everything has been going according to the schedule and nothing happened to interrupt it or change his plans, he did this yesterday, or it is likely that he did this yesterday." this is very common in conditionals. So the idea is you say yakunu kataba is something like it would be if things are as they currently understood that he did this thing in the past. Okay, so he should have probably wrote. Similarly, a present yakunu yaktubu implies, if everything is as it should be, then this is what he is doing right now. He should be or probably is writing. Similarly, the present future compound tense is just basically just like the future, except mitigating responsibility for what you're saying. So you're basically saying, if everything is as it should be right now, well then he will probably do this at some point in the future. So again, he should be or probably will be going to write. So to sum this up, I think this is a fairly complex system. It allows for a rich specification of verb timing. And starting to notice the nuances of the relationship between these various forms is going to go a long way in helping you see the relationship between sentences in a narrative. A few other verbs that can be used as helping verbs, with main verbs. These are called the sisters of kana. And some of them, when used by themselves, mean to become, like asbaha and sara, but others have various meanings, like ja'ala, to make, and akhadha, to take. When used as helping verbs, however, they all mean to begin or to start to do something. And the main verb after them is invariably in the plain present tense. So yaktubu means he is writing, but asbaha yaktubu means he started to write. So this is a much more limited phenomenon than the helping verb kana, which can be in any tense with both different verbs. So over the next several slides, you're going to see examples from the corpus of the various tenses that have been presented in this lesson. I'm trying to stick to a few common verbs, although that's not always possible because some of these forms are fairly rare. But I do want you to make it a habit of noticing these compound tenses as soon as you come across them so that they start becoming intuitive for you. So, 3 examples of the simple past tense with the verb ذهب. ذهبت إلى بيتها عادت بعد الحلوى وجهزت العصائر. So she went to her house, she prepared some sweets and some juice. ذهبوا إلى نقطة البوليس واشتكوه للمأمور. Notice that I've left off, I'll just put in the ra right there, which I left off in typing. So that means they went to the police station and complained about him to the police sergeant. And finally, بعد أسبوع طويل من البحث تأكد له أن عبده قد ذهب إلى الأبد. Okay, so after a long week of searching, he was convinced that Abdu had gone, forever. Notice that you might, in English, interpret that as what we call a past perfect, but it's really not a past perfect, it's just a plain past tense verb. The qad doesn't really add anything to it. He just became convinced that Abdu had gone. So then again, 3 examples to go with the present tense. So لماذا لا نذهب نحن إليه? Why don't we go to him? لا أعرف أين يذهب ولا ماذا يفعل في نفسه. I don't know what he's doing. And I don't know where he's going and what he's doing to himself. And then a habitual example, يذهب كل صباح إلى إدارة الوقف. Okay, so every morning he goes to the administration of the Waqf headquarters. Examples with the same verb with simple future. We get سأذهب لأحضر لك القهوة. I'm going to make coffee for you. ألم يذكر لك قبلا أنه سيذهب? Didn't he mention to you before that he was going to go? And سوف يذهبون بعد المدرسة إلى بيت رمزي في آخر شارع 12. So after school they are going to go to Ramsey's house. On this page we see 3 examples of the past. First of all, كنت نسيت كل شيء عنها. So of course he could have said نسيت كل شيء عنها, I forgot everything about her, but he says كنت نسيت, I had forgotten everything about her at this time in the past that we're talking about. كنت تعودت على وجوده معي. Okay, I had become accustomed to his presence with me. كنت أشعر بشيء من الوحدة المفاجئة وهو يتركني وحدي لموسم الشتاء. So when he would leave me in the winter season, I would feel lonely because I had become accustomed. So it's referring to a time in the past when he left, and saying, I had already before that time become accustomed to him. في بداية الشهر الثالث كان قد مر على آخر اتصالاته أسبوعان كاملان. So at the beginning of the third month, 2 full weeks had passed since his last contact with him, since he had last called him. Notice that you can always take a qad in between the kana and the verb. It doesn't really change anything because he could have said kana marra or kana qad marra. The past present is what was going on at some point in the past. So here, kana yatakallam bihudu'i man ittakhadha al-qarar. So he was speaking with the calmness of someone who had made the decision. And kana yadhhab al-maqabir kul yawm. This is a past habitual. Every day he used to go to the graveyard and sit in front of his brother's grave. On the past future, we get examples of this past intentionality. So kana sayati al-yawm wahdahu dun istihab al-ghaniya ma'hu. So he was going to come today by himself without accompanying the rich girl with him. وأظنها كانت ستقول لا لكنها قال ربما. So I thought that she was going to say كانت ستقول, that she was going to say no, but she said maybe. So examples of the future past, talking about some event in business. It says it will mean sayani في حال تحققه, in case it actually happens. أن المبيعات ستكون قفزت. So it means that the sales will have jumped 5.4 times since the year 1994. Notice 1994 is written backwards. That sometimes happens when you bring things in, but of course in the original Arabic it would have been forwards. So the idea is if such and such happens, then this thing will have already happened. The next one I won't go over in detail, but I put the context there so you can figure it out. But at the very end of it, you can see that it says, despite the fact that these latter states that I just mentioned will have compensated, satakun awadat, for their lack of development to a certain extent. Okay? The third example says, if that takes place, إذا تم ذلك سنكون نجحنا في جعل إسرائيل تشعر بالموقف العربي الموحد. Okay, so if that happens, if that takes place, we will have succeeded in making Israel feel, etc. And an example with qad. Remember, you can almost always put a qad in front of the perfect. Nothing is going to hurt him because he will have died. So at this point in the future, he already would have died. The future present is quite rare. I found only one example. I put, again, a whole context there for you. It was in 3 paragraphs, but the part that matters here. لو قابل ذلك, so if he accepts that, فَمَنْ مِنَّا سَيَكُونْ يَتْبَعَ الْآخَرِ, who from among us will be the one who is following the other? In other words, at that point in time, who will be doing such and such a thing, me or him? The future is common in conditionals. And so, for instance, the first sentence says, even if he gets mad, even if he gets angry, سَيَكُونْ سَيَذْهَبْ سُخْتُهُ أَدْرَاجَ الرِّيَاحِ. That's an idiom that means his anger will just kind of dissipate. But the idea is he didn't say his anger will dissipate. He said his anger will be going to dissipate. He puts it in the future and then in the future from there. So once he does get mad at some point in the future, then future from there, it will dissipate. The next sentence is similar. It's also a conditional. It's basically saying that if there is not a qualified, capable administration, then everything that it offers, سَيَكُونْ سَيَذْهَبْ كَمَا ذَهَبْ مِنْ قَبْلِ. And so the idea is that it's going to just be wasted. It will be going to just go away, so to speak, just like it has in the past. Unless you get a competent administration, it doesn't really matter what it does. Its efforts are going to be wasted. And the last one is talking about President Obama's aid of $400 billion, and it says, سَتَكُونْ سَتَذْهَبْ لِتَزْوِيدِ الْجَيْشِ بِالْأَسْلِحَةِ وَتَضْرِيبَ عَنَاصِرِ الْجَيْشِ السُّورِيِ الْحُرِّ. So the idea is this is talking about how the money that he's offering is going to be used, and he's putting it in the future. In other words, if the money is allocated, then it is in the future from that time going to go to providing the army with arms, etc. The present forms of the to be verb with the various forms are also common with conditional sentences. And so, لو أنك استسلمت للحزن, if you had given in to sadness, تكون حققت, you will have achieved for these infidels their goals. In other words, you will have done just exactly what they wanted you to do. And so, present tense combined with the past tense, and the idea is it's kind of like saying this didn't happen, but it could have or should have or would have happened had the other thing happened. So the next one says, I asked her once about the reason ألا تكون كتبت, that she had not written except for the one book. Okay, and so تكون, I said تكون كتبت, of course, تكون كتبت. Why is it that she had only done this one thing? And the last sentence, we'll just look at the last part. It's like you're searching for something. So it says, it's as if I was searching for something. قد تكونين كتبتيه لي مسبقا. Okay, so searching for something that you might have written it. You might have written it, present tense, past tense, to me previously. I'm using the same sentence as an example, just a continuation from it, because then we get a present tense later on. Still talking about searching for something عن شيء ما قد يكون يربطنا من خلال قصة لم تكن قصتنا. Okay, so searching for something that could conceivably unite us through a story which is not our story. And the other example of the present tense is, I said to myself, قلت لنفسي قد تكون ترغب في معرفة أخبار سعد. Okay, so it's possible that you might want to know about Saad's news. And the last set of examples on 2 slides are involved with the present future. So the first sentence says basically if they continue all their negativity into the summit, then the summit, okay, إذن فالقمة, and you could just skip the next part, تكون ستواجه برفض. Okay, and so it's going to be, if this happens, in the future from that time, going to be facing this rejection. And the last one is in some kind of Islamic discourse where it says this person, might go to hell, وَقَدْ يَكُونْ سَيَذْهَبْ لِلْجَنَّةِ, and it might be that he will go to heaven. And so again, he's saying it's the might idea here. I'm not specifically declaring God's judgment. I'm just saying he might go to heaven, he might go to hell. The next sentence says, the upsetting or the confusing thing in the issue is that she قد تكون ستذهب إلى زيارة أهلها, that she might be going to visit her family. Okay, saying I'm not sure, it's possible that she might be going to do that. The last example is complaining about cars that are in too much of a hurry and they're causing danger for others. And so he says, عندما تكون ستذهب في مشوار, when you are in the process of about to be going on an errand. Okay, تكون ستذهب, you are in the state of going to be going on an errand. And again, there's a little bit of maybe in there. And you're in a hurry. وتكون في عجلة, and then it talks about, pounding on your horn and trying to get by other people and causing danger for you and others. So once again, I just urge you to notice these tenses, especially the stranger ones. You will see them, and it will help you to get a feel for how Arabic is put together if you notice them.